And we ask you to please take your seats now, and in preparation for the start of our service, we ask you to please silence your cell phones and electronic devices. Thank you.
We have come together, sharing in our sorrow, to bid farewell to our beloved Mo. We recall the blessing of his life. We thank God for all that was good in his life and for the precious memories which shall endure. Eternal God, Creator, merciful Father of all, your children bowed in grief seek light to dispel the dark gloom. Be gracious to those who mourn. Bless them with your compassion. Ease their burden of sorrow. Send them light and peace, for it is written, "Fear not, as I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will sustain you with my power." And let us all say, Amen. The 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. There are 150 Psalms. Only one of them has the opening dedication that reads as follows, and it's Psalm 90, actually. Tefillah Moshe ish Elohim, a prayer of Moshe, man of God. Mo's Hebrew name is Moshe. Adonai, you have been our refuge through all generations. Before mountains emerged, before the earth was formed, from age to age, everlastingly, you are God. But humans, you crumble into dust and say, "Return, O mortals, for 1,000 years in your sight are as a passing day, an hour of night." You engulf all human beings in sleep. They flourish for a day like grass. In the morning it sprouts afresh. By nightfall it fades and withers. By your anger we are consumed. By your wrath we are overcome. You set out our transgressions before you, our secret sins before your presence. Your wrath darkens our days. Our lives are over like a sigh. 70 our years may number. 80 years have granted the vigor. Laden with trouble and travail, life quickly passes and flies away. Who can know the power of your wrath? Who can measure the reverence due you? Teach us to use all of our days, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. Relent, Adonai, how long must we suffer? Have compassion upon your servants. Grant us your love in the morning, that we may sing in gladness all our days. Match days of sorrow with days of joy, equal to the years we have suffered. Then your servants will see your power. Their children will know your glory. May Adonai, our God, show us compassion and establish the work of our hands. May the work of our hands be firmly established. There are 2 mitzvot, 2 commandments associated with a funeral. The first one is to offer words of tribute in memory of our departed. And so, through special arrangements, we have a very thoughtful note from Nancy Merritt, who's the Vice Chancellor for Alumni Relations at Pitt. I'd like to call upon our president of our congregation, Alan Hausman, who made these arrangements to get this special letter from the Vice Chancellor. Alan.
I contacted the university. We all know that Mo was a big Pitt fan. Got a chance to watch the backyard brawl. I know that made him happy. So I contacted the university and their alumni department, and we learned some interesting things. Mo was not the oldest alum. There are 7 other alums that are 102 and 12 that are 103 or older. So I went to Pitt, so I'm sure hoping that means something here. But they sent us a note here. It says, with great sympathy that I extend condolences on behalf of the Pitt Alumni Association with the passing of Morris Mo Lebow. You have lost a beloved friend and a member of your congregation, just as we have lost a spirited and valued member of the Pitt family. According to our records, Mo received his bachelor degree in business administration from the University of Pittsburgh in 1930. I find this to be astounding, since this would mean that Mo graduated from Pitt at the surprisingly young age of 10. I just feel bad that Mo didn't get to hear this, because this would have been great material for Mo to work with. It's entirely possible that there's a typo in our records, but it's also entirely possible that Mo is just that exceptional. At age 102, we know that Mo was among the oldest alumni in the Pitt community, and we know that he was among our most enthusiastic fans. It's my understanding that despite being ill, he donned his Pitt gear and watched the game against West Virginia on September 1st. Indeed, his cheering helped lead the Panthers to victory that evening. We're truly fortunate to be able to count Mo among our ranks, and we're grateful to him for his support and continued show of Pitt pride. Although he will most certainly be missed by many, our hope is that you will find comfort in his memory and the camaraderie you share. And I just think it's appropriate that Mo's grandson is sitting in his favorite seat, holding his folder there. We got Mo as close as we could, and I'm sure he's proud of everyone being here, and I'm sure he's also upset that we're making such a fuss over him. Thanks, everybody.
I can attest to the fact that how Mo was in such great spirits the day after the victory over West Virginia, because when I saw him, I thought, all right, I may have to tell him that Pitt won. No, but he knew all about it and was reciting all of this information about it, so he knew more about the game than I did. I'd like to now continue, and I'm going to ask Brad to come forward and share some words with us. Brad. Are you going to wear one of Mo's sweaters? Oh. Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you. I think these sweaters need no explanation or introduction. 102 years, an amazing life. Sometimes we thought Poppy would live forever, and sometimes it felt like he nearly did. Thinking about his extraordinary life, it's often difficult for me to comprehend just how long he lived and how much the world changed in his time. Radios, traffic lights, sunglasses, televisions, cheeseburgers. None of these things existed when Poppy was born in 1919. The First World War had just ended. Amelia Earhart had never been on an airplane. Prohibition hadn't begun. The Hoover Dam was 10 years away from breaking ground. Most people still traveled on horseback. Computers, jumbo jets, the internet, space flight were all science fiction. Then again, the term science fiction wasn't even coined until the mid-1920s. While visiting him in the hospital last week, I asked, "Poppy, do you remember your first car?" "I don't remember the horse's name," he said quickly. Throughout his remarkable life, Poppy saw the world change like no other period in history. But rather than talk about the world around him, I want to focus on the man who made it a better place to live. The other day, I found myself walking around the Pitt campus, and as I walked past the campus store, a shirt in the window caught my eye. It said, "Family, friends, football, life is good, go Pitt." If my grandfather was reincarnated as a piece of clothing, that was him. Nothing brought Poppy as much joy and strength as his family. His wife, Charlotte, my nanny Lebow, was the light of his life. When she passed away, we thought, that's it for Poppy. How could he go on without her? Our family was devastated, and at over 80 years old, what did he have left to live for? Little did we know that the next 20 plus years would be filled with countless memories and endless love for his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Poppy was always the life of the party. 10 years ago, at 93 years young, we had to physically drag him off the dance floor at my wedding. When the band stopped playing, he asked, "Where are we going next?" The smile didn't leave his face all weekend, surrounded by his family and savoring yet another special moment in a life full of them. And that was Poppy Bow, always enjoying life, living it to the fullest, making new friends and relishing new experiences, even as he entered his hundreds. Poppy had an uncanny ability to connect with anybody. Many of his closest friends were 20 and 30 years his junior. He could hold court with a group of 90-year-olds at the JCC and then debate Pittsburgh sports with my friends on his way home. My relationship with him was akin to a close friendship between contemporaries. It was never a challenge to find a conversation with him, as you may expect with most people separated by 60 years of age. With my kids, Jackson and Claire, Poppy held them, fed them, joked with them. He'd even get down on the ground and play with them and their toys. My children genuinely enjoyed being with Poppy, at least until he tried to lay one of those signature big, wet, sloppy Poppy kisses on them. Poppy loved us all so much, and his love for his family was only matched by our love for him. Whether it was watching college football with his son, Alan, or Sunday dinners at my mom's, he was his happiest with his family by his side. Life wasn't always easy for him. He endured numerous heartbreaks and tragedies, including decades of painful Pitt football losses, and he had always managed to overcome and keep his head held high. Perhaps the most remarkable attribute that my grandfather possessed was his ability to persevere and find happiness in the world, no matter what life threw at him. His mother passed away when he was 8 years old. He survived the Great Depression and World War II, contracting malaria during a 4-year deployment in Panama. He was once robbed at gunpoint and locked in his trunk while selling jewelry. And of course, tragically, Poppy lost 11 friends and so much more that fateful day at Tree of Life. After that day, he attended morning minion every single day. Even though they were gone, he felt it was his duty to honor his friends. And yet, through all of that, he never complained, never frowned, never sulked. He always had a smile on his face, a kind word to offer, and an uncanny ability to lift the spirits of everyone around him. Poppy's humor was contagious, if not repetitive. He used to slip me a $20 bill and whisper gas money, even before I could drive a car. When offered vegetables at dinner, he would immediately say, I had spinach for dinner or for breakfast. If you made a bad joke, he would proclaim, I'll handle the humor. And if he made a bad joke, he would just carefully explain it to you over and over again until you finally relented and laughed. Mo was the unofficial mayor of Squirrel Hill. Everyone knew him and loved him. I received texts and emails almost every week from someone excited to tell me, I ran into your grandfather on the street. He was a celebrity in his own right and brought a smile to everyone's face. The definition of a mensch is a person of integrity and honor. Poppy Bow is the ultimate mensch, and we will miss him terribly. Before I finish, I want to acknowledge two people who meant so much to Poppy. Mom, you cooked him more chicken soup and cabbage soup than a New York deli. Whenever he wanted cookies or corned beef, you made sure he had them fast, fresh, and warm. You arranged his care, schlepped him around the city, consulted his doctors, and yes, worried about him constantly. He loved you tremendously, and he was incredibly lucky to have you. David, your support for my grandfather knew no bounds. Even though he never asked for it, you cared for him and made sure he always had everything he needed. You treated him with what seemed like weekly steak dinners with pecan ball desserts, and you watched patiently as he scarfed down the entire pecan ball without offering you so much as a bite. About 15 years ago or so, you made it possible for him to go to Israel, the trip of a lifetime, but you had someone call to tell him that he won the trip in a contest. As usual, you wanted no credit, but you would deserve a ton. We can never thank you both for all that you did, cared for him, or you cared for him like your own father, and he loved you like a son. Mom and David, like Poppy before you, you sacrificed so much to make sure he had everything he needed. It's comforting to know that with him gone, his legacy is carried on by you both.
Morris, aka Mo Lebow, was born in 1919. Married my amazing grandmother Charlotte in 1947, and the two made their home in Squirrel Hill. For my entire childhood, they lived in a house on Beacon Street, where Poppy made his living as a jewelry salesman. I recall hanging out at Nanny and Poppy's house as a kid, watching random people come in with cash and leave with diamonds. Poppy became Squirrel Hill famous, as we say, for providing diamond rings to half of the neighborhood. Some of you in here today are probably wearing one of those rings. But for those of you who knew Mo, knew him well, you knew he missed his true calling in life as a comedian. Poppy provided the comedy for every family gathering and had all of us laughing right up until the very end. Not only did Poppy get funnier as he got older, but he did not welcome or appreciate any competition in that department. I recall one family dinner where I told a joke that was mediocre at best. A few family members forced a chuckle while Poppy quipped, "Jason, how about you leave the comedy to me?" One might argue that if jewelry and comedy didn't work out, Poppy could always fall back on pickle making. He was also Squirrel Hill famous for his jarred pickles. Coincidentally, pickles were the only green vegetable Poppy ate in his entire life. Some of you in this room benefited from his pickle brining and know that he did not shy away from the very generous use of garlic. Shortly before he passed, he gave us a list of friends who did not return their pickle jars. We will be speaking with you after the service. In all seriousness, Poppy was the coolest grandfather anyone could ask for. His greatest love was his grandkids. Hanging out with him was not a chore, but rather an experience that always yielded plenty of laughs and some great memories. So today, instead of just mourning a loss, I thought I would focus on 3 funny stories that I shared with Poppy. The first one. Back in 1994, I was looking at colleges and had narrowed down my selection to the University of Pittsburgh or Penn State. At dinner with Nanny and Poppy, I shared the news that I had to pick between Pitt or Penn State, and I was unsure what to do. When he heard the words Penn State leave my lips, Poppy immediately clutched his chest and responded, "Penn State? Is this a joke? Are you trying to kill me?" Needless to say, that fall, I became a Pitt Panther. The next story. Shortly after Nanny passed away, I took Poppy to Poli's for their early bird special. The early bird included dessert, and as everyone in the room knows, ice cream was his go-to. The server brought Pop his dish of chocolate ice cream. The moment she walked away, Poppy inhaled the ice cream, then promptly hid the glass dish under the table and looked at me and said, "Hush." He then proceeded to wave down the server, told her that he didn't remember ever getting his ice cream. I watched in awe as this deception played out before my very eyes. The server appeared confused, but was not about to argue with a sweet old man, especially not one pretending to be senile. So Pop scored himself a second dessert on the house. The last story also involved a con, except this time I was the mark. A few years back, Troy and I took Poppy and his lovely girlfriend Ina to go see Lewis Black at Heinz Hall. I asked Poppy if he wanted to go to dinner before the show, and he proceeded to brag about a great deal that few people knew about. Whenever we go to a show downtown, he'd say, we park at Morton's Steakhouse. The valet is free if you are dining there. We go inside, we get their hamburger and French fries. It's only $15. Then we leave our car there while we go to the show. $30 for dinner and free parking. Can't beat it. Sounded like a great plan, so I told him that we would treat Ina and him to dinner. We arrived at Morton's. We valeted the car. I saw the $15 burger on the menu and immediately felt a sense of relief. Troy and I ordered our hamburgers. Unfortunately, Poppy forgot the game plan. He proceeded to order a bottle of wine, an appetizer, filet mignon, side dishes, and dessert. As if the $300 check wasn't bad enough, the valet then charged us $25 at the end of the night when we picked up our car. So much for that $30 dinner, but Poppy sure enjoyed that steak. I could go on for hours, but you get the idea, and I'm sure most of you have your own Mo Lebow stories to tell. But before I go, I'd like to acknowledge two other special people in Mo's life. When we lost Nanny, we weren't sure how Poppy would ever recover. Thankfully, a few years down the road, he found Ina, and they have been two peas in a pod ever since. Ina, thank you for making Poppy so happy and for being a part of our family for the last several years. And to Sally, Poppy's caretaker, friend, and most importantly, the only one that could keep him in line. Thank you for everything you've done for Pop over the last 4.5 years. He loved you, and our family was so lucky to have found you. And finally, to all of Poppy's friends who are here today to pay tribute to a one-of-a-kind guy who has brightened the lives of so many, thank you. Your support means the world to our family, and your kindness will not be forgotten. But if you have any of those pickle jars, you've got until the end of Shiva to get them back. Thank you.
If one would be standing outside the room as this was happening, you would say, wait, this is a funeral? But they'd say, but who is it for? And knowing that it's for Mo, it's the most appropriate thing. Because after all, Mo brought joy into all of our lives. Today is a bittersweet, sad day of a life well lived, of a person who did their utmost to bring joy in our lives. So it's really a celebration of an incredible human being who is special to each and every one of you in this room in some special way. I did not know Mo as long as probably almost any of you in this room. I first came here July 31st, 2017. I met Mo then within the ensuing years. It was a Monday night. I'll never forget, I think the first real interaction with Mo was that Thursday morning at Minion, because as we finished Minion and came downstairs, and Minionaires know what I'm talking about, he would say, today's Thursday. Why would that matter? Because Thursday was the day the Pushka, the charity box, came out because you were to put some money into it. Now, why would that matter? Because at the end of every year, on behalf of all of the people who came to Morning Minion, Mo would present a significant check to the congregation to continue to support the Tree of Life. And for him, that was a great source of pride every year that he could do that. And he did that religiously. I don't know how far back, because the records we have are probably chiseled in stone if we go back to the early days of Mo. So I wouldn't know how far back it went. How propitious it was that Mo died on a Thursday. It's as though God said, Mo, it's Thursday. I really think God said that to Mo. When you wore the sweaters, how appropriate. It reminded me of whenever Mo would wear a sweater to Morning Minion, he'd always remark about the fact that I had a tie on. I have a lot of ties. I wear a lot of suits. I have a lot of ties. Mo would always say something nice about my tie. And I would say to Mo, Mo, that's a really great sweater. And his answer to me, without skipping a beat, would be, I have sweaters older than you, Rabbi. It was a few weeks after I met Mo that I was talking with the Morning Minionaires I wanted to put together a service on the Sabbath nearest to Veterans Day to honor all the veterans. And face it, a lot of the people who came to the morning service were veterans. So trying to gather information, talking around the room with the different people who were there. So it was about time to then find out about Mo's service to our country. And when I then asked Mo, someone at the table whose name shall remain nameless to protect the guilty, then remarked, "No, Mo, it was the Spanish-American War you're a veteran of." And without missing a beat, as Mo never did, Mo would say, "It was the 1812 war, get your facts straight." I found it remarkable that at the tender age of 102, how quick he could still be with a response. While the body physically might be failing, the sharpness of mind was just incredible. I would say even more incredible than people half his age, if not more. So I don't know what that special DNA is. I hope they shared it with the family so that we can continue to appreciate Mo's humor. I had the privilege of blessing him on his 102nd birthday, if you remember, when you brought him to synagogue, and we gathered and we gave him an aliyah. And I thought about, gee, what am I going to say to him? So I began afterwards by saying to Mo that, you know, Mo, I've never met anyone that's 102, which is true. I'd never met anyone 102. And I anticipated your answer, which would have been, I never met anyone either who's 102. He remarked about the fact that regularly going to services, there would be a carpool. Usually it was our dear old Marlene who would pick him up and bring him to morning minyan. And I'd ask him on any given morning, I asked him, "So Mo, Marlene brought you to minyan. How was the ride?" Just to make conversation. Without skipping a beat, as is typical Mo, his answer was, "It was terrible. She shoved me in the trunk." With all of the experiences each of us had with Mo, I think there's a responsibility inherent in that. All of us witness on a day-to-day basis so much sadness in the world. Mo is that bright spot every day that could take a cloudy Pittsburgh day, which is probably 97% of the days in Pittsburgh, and he could make it bright and sunny and cheer you up some manner, shape, or form. Just because he's not with us physically doesn't mean he's still not with us here. So I sort of offer a challenge for everyone here and beyond in a way that I think would be most appropriate to honor the memory of Mo. Share humor. Do it in his name and in his memory. Bring more brightness to the days of people around you. And if you even want to toss in the footnote, this is in memory of Mo, I think Mo would appreciate that and applaud approvingly from no doubt the front row in heaven that he's seated at now, embarrassingly saying, "Enough already, stop, enough." That's how we honor the memory of someone dear, by doing the same types of things that that person would do. So I might jokingly say to Mo, "Mo, were you the script writer for Henny Youngman?" Without missing a beat, his answer would have been, "No, it was Sid Caesar." B, Mo. That's the best way to honor Mo's memory. You don't have to carry a joke book with you, but find ways to brighten the days of the people around you. We all know we need more light in our lives. An incredible light has been extinguished, but that doesn't mean that the light went out, because when we share brightness and light with other people, we invoke the memory of a beautiful human being, and we bring more light into the world. In the end, I think that's what Mo really want of all of us, to do that. So that's the challenge for you to think about when you leave here today. How can I bring more light into the world? How can I be just like Mo? We may have to get bracelets printed up. As opposed to WWJD, what would Jesus do? WWMS, what would Mo say? As a reminder to add brightness to the lives of everyone. because by doing that, we keep Mo's memory alive, his presence is with us, and we make the days of everyone around us so much better. I know he made my life brighter every single day that I would see him, and that was very frequently. And I consider myself blessed to have had Mo in my life. I'm sure all of you feel the same way. May Mo's memory always be for a blessing, and let us say, Amen. I wanted to note for all of you that'll be joining us at the cemetery before I chant the memorial prayer, that we're going to be engaging in an unusual Jewish custom. There's a custom within the Jewish faith that when a person of great import has passed from the life of a synagogue, that as you drive by the synagogue, you open the doors. So we will be driving by his beloved tree of life. We'll be pausing at Tree of Life. I'll get out of the hearse. We're going to open the doors to the main sanctuary because the front of the building, most of you may know, it has the beautiful fencing of the beautiful art the children created. You wouldn't see the doors from that angle. So the shady avenue doors from the main sanctuary, Mo's beloved place, we pause, we open the doors, we open the hearse, and we'll just stand quietly for 30 seconds. No one needs to get out of their car. This is for Mo, out of respect to Mo, so that we'll pause and do that and then continue our procession onward to homeward. So there's nothing you need to do, but just note, if there's a pause for 30 seconds, that's what's happened. If you're able to rise, I invite you to do so now as I intone the memorial prayer. מלא רחמים, שוכן ממרמים, המצא מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזרקיה מזהירים. את נשמת משה בן הרשל שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן מנוחתו. אנא בעל הרחמים, הסירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני ונחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Moshe ben Herschel, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that Mo find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. Oh, let me do that. Yes, thank you for reminding me. Pardon me, I neglected to announce information about Shiva. Shiva will be observed at Mo's daughter's home, which are the Madison Apartments on Belfield Avenue, Monday and Tuesday, 7 to 9 p.m. Shiva Minyan will be at 8:30 p.m. on both of those evenings.